What do you think it will happen tomorrow at the election?
Hát én úgy gondolom, életkoromnál fogva, hogy én reménykedem a változásban.
You're hoping Orbán to be changed?
Én úgy gondolom, hogy igen, mivel van 2 gyermekem, akiről tudom, hogy ők már egészen másként képzelik el.
How do you see the economy in a year from now on?
Hát én csak reménykedem benne, hogy azért előrébb tudunk lépni. Én ugyan már nem dolgozom, mert hál' Istennek nem, nyugdíjba mehettem, de akik még dolgoznak, arra nézve is azt gondolom, hogy igen, jó lenne, ha előrébb lépnénk.
Comrade Lenin, wake up!
Что это?
Wake up! It's the end of the election.
Who won?
Orbán Viktor.
Oh, fuck it! Shit! Couldn't you vote some commies, dudes? I mean, commies want the wellness of the people.
Well, maybe no.
Well, my people was okay under communism.
Comrade Stalin disagrees. And Comrade Khrushchev disagrees heavily.
Oi, fuck it.
So Comrade Lenin came to Budapest to make sure that the right loses, and
he failed.
so just like everyone else that was against Orbán
Another commie that failed.
Everyone was against Orbán Viktor. All right, so we're taping this on April the 4th. We're again with Dániel Schönberger. And congratulations, first of all, for the accurate prediction 2 days before the election, with Michal getting into the parliament. It took me another 24 hours to be sure of that. So congratulations for getting the prediction accurate. And congratulations to all 3 of us for getting the prediction accurate that the Dogtail Party doesn't get into the parliament.
For fuck's sake.
There were 2 polls that actually got them into the parliament, and I just made the editorial snap decision to just decree them as fake news. And it turned out to be correct.
To be true, yeah.
All right, so the final results are still not entirely known when we're taping this, but it's mostly 62% of the votes. Fidesz, 37-ish. Markizai Péter, 6.6. Michal and everyone else, well, outside.
Yeah,
in the court.
1% or even less than 1%.
In the court of the parliament, on the grass in front of the in front of the Kossuth monument.
On the lawn, on Kossuth's lawn.
Well, how do you feel about Michal getting to the parliament?
Oh, it will be awesome. I mean, the parliamentary sessions will be honk for sure.
Comrade Lenin disagrees because they are far right and something.
Yeah, so let's explain
socially
this to the audience. So Michal is essentially a neo-fascist party, left-wing economics and authoritarian right-wing social policies.
Yes.
And honk.
Yes, and a lot of honk. With honk proposals and stuff like that.
I looked up, apparently Mr. Torotsky Laszlo have managed to get himself banned in Slovakia twice and in Serbia 3 times.
Yes.
So it wasn't like it wasn't like the Romanian courts really had something against him. Maybe he has something against, observing basic law, like don't deal weapons, don't organize very violent protests in front of the Ministry of Defense in Slovakia or the Ministry of Commerce in Serbia. Just don't stage riots. I mean, it's not that difficult.
I mean, he was also the guy who attacked the TV station in 2006. So
yeah, but at least then he kind of had a point. I mean, the TV station kind of had it coming. I mean, if we are to be fully honest.
My curiosity is, he had immunity. He was a diplomat.
No. Now he will have parliamentary immunity.
No. In Romania or in Slovakia.
No.
So why didn't they arrest him?
Well, they did.
Yeah.
and judge him
Yes,
there.
yeah, and then they expelled him, and if we enforced a ban of 1 year first time and 3 years the second time, that was the case. in
No
Slovakia.
jail time.
I don't
for
think,
dealing
I don't think
arms.
he served jail time in Slovakia. In Romania, he did like 6 months or something, and then he got just kicked out.
Okay,
Nope.
so Serbians couldn't keep him in jail. Or?
Yeah, no, the same thing. Serbians imposed a huge fine and then kicked him out.
Okay.
Because that's what you usually do, especially with these kinds of noisy activists who can make a splash in the media. If they're not a citizen, the easiest thing is to just kick them out and keep them out for a while. We have our own example. George Simeon is banned in Moldova like since forever.
And forever. He's banned
Yeah,
for
sure.
life.
The first ban was imposed by the commies, but then this new pro-European regime just prolonged it because why not? What should we expect? I mean, it's Momentum and Mihozang in the same parliament.
Yeah, Momentum, I don't think they have many seats. Like very
11.
11.
11?
Yeah.
So a bit more than Mihozang.
If I remember well, 11.
Yeah, and
Yeah, but
Mihozang
the results we saw at night have changed a bit. So right now Fidesz is at 133, so basically the same as before, and the opposition gained like 1 or 2 more seats, and yeah, Mihozang is at 7, and
Yeah, so around 11 or maybe 12 Momentum. Still, it will be the very far left and the very far right, conventionally speaking, in the same parliament, and both in opposition, technically speaking.
yes.
I presume Mihozang doesn't have any plans of making a coalition with anyone.
No. Toroczkai László was very clear on that he does not want any coalition with anybody, neither nor Fidesz nor the opposition.
I'm looking forward for the parliamentary
Yes.
sessions. I mean, I really do, because
I mean, if the results would have been a lot closer, then it would have been a hung parliament if Mihozang held out and not making any coalitions with anybody.
that would have meant snap elections at some point.
Yeah, something like that.
Interim Orbán for 4 years. I mean, why not? And we spent an entire day in Ionest, in Hódmezővásárhely, and we also kind of predicted that he probably won't win his own seat,
Yes.
which is exactly what happened, which is even funnier because it did happen. I mean, we were only half joking a few days ago when we taped the first part of this, and it actually happened. He barely got a bit over 30.
Yeah, it didn't just happen. His
fucking
opposition, Lázár János, beat him by like 10 points or 15.
Double digits. Yes. Double
Double
digits.
13 points I've seen last night. Maybe the results changed. I don't know.
Yeah, but double digits at his own home ground. So,
Yes.
So not
His
o-
birthplace.
Yes.
It's not his hometown. It's his birthplace. He was born there.
It's where
went-
people are supposed to know.
Yeah, went to Canada and came back to do politics in his city, and he lost.
No, at first he was selling vacuum cleaners and then entered into politics.
Yeah,
here.
but you. For fuck's sake, the local elections were 6 months ago. I mean, mayoral elections were.
With Markizai Péter?
Yeah.
No, that was in 2018.
Oh, in 18.
Also, but the local elections are still due to be held this autumn.
Yes.
Hódmezővásárhely will have a different mayor.
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Definitely. Yep. Because I've seen one of our friends telling that the opposition is already preparing to throw all the dead bodies in his yard, and I tend to agree with the guy, because fucking you have Momentum and all the others.
Last night, when he went out on stage to address the situation,
Because the crowd wasn't there.
first of all, the crowd was not there. At least very few people were
He
there.
couldn't address the crowd
And-
because fuck it.
Not a single opposition party member went out with him on the stage. Only his family.
Yeah,
That's how bad he lost.
On the other hand, I've seen, I don't remember on which publication, but essentially both Edwin Gyurcsány and Klára Dobrev announced their withdrawal from politics.
Have they?
Yeah,
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, but on Actualita, I think it was the publication, but it was like, really?
Oh, if they get out of the politics, good news for Hungary.
I don't think so. I mean, Gyurcsány is actually triumphant. See, you guys should have elected my wife. Because the captain steered the ship the wrong way.
Yeah, so essentially what is going to be now is everyone, kind of like what the Republicans did in 2012. Everything was Mitt Romney's fault.
Yes.
Even though it wasn't really.
Yes.
And this time around, everything will be Marky Zajpéter's fault.
Yeah.
Even though...
Maybe they shouldn't have called him a captain.
Well,
Maybe they should have called him Hauptsturmführer.
Everything is not Marky Zajpéter's fault. Many things are his fault, but not all of it. So I think that would be unfair to just say it's all Marky Zajpéter.
I did not say it. I did say, however, that the MSP and the Momentum.
Yeah, of course
they will say that.
Of course,
they will place the blame on Marky
because it's easier.
Yeah.
Because it's easier.
The loony guy. Who lost the loony guy?
So in addition to him being loony, what else went wrong? Because in seats or constituencies or districts where usually the opposition would get a high amount of votes, that's where we saw a lower turnout than the statistical norm.
Yeah.
So something depressed the vote of particularly opposition voters, of the fuck Orbán crowd. What exactly happened?
I would say it's probably the entire state of the opposition, because they have been becoming progressively worse year by year, and the liberals just said, fuck it, we are not voting for this because no.
It's like in Romania, dude. Instead of having National Liberal Party as opposition, you have Save Romania Union.
Yeah, but Save Romania Union deserves to be perpetually in opposition,
Yeah,
preferably
but
outside of
the
the
opposition is getting worse and worse and worse.
And also the opposition has been overly panicked over the virus. And people do not want to be locked up. That's my general impression.
Who would have thought?
Really? so generally people want to kill grandma.
Yeah. And that my general impression of the Hungarian public, even here in Budapest, is that they just don't want to be locked up.
Yeah, who would have said?
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Although we did spend this day on April the 4th mostly in Buda, and there we've seen a lot more masks than on the Pest.
Yeah, of course, yes. I mean, that's
Yeah,
degeneracy central even within Budapest.
Yeah, but you said that Buda is basically the Balkans.
Yes, it's the
but in the
Balkans.
Balkans you don't find any masks on the street.
Well, then again, maybe it's too close to Romania and they get some panic cards from our side of the border. Because that would be the only explanation.
Some panickers moved here believing that the opposition will win.
Yeah, speaking of moving in and out. As usual, as it happened in the United States and as it happens almost everywhere these days, well, at least in Europe and North America, lots of prominent individuals claim that they will be leaving or escaping Hungary, as if someone ever stopped them from leaving Hungary, because of the result.
If I don't see them swimming into Tisa, they're not escaping anything.
So, is there a donation drive going to pay for their airfare? Because we got to help these people to just
I would donate to that, but unfortunately they are never really serious about it. They just whine.
No, shit.
Well, that's unfortunate. But then again, that was usually the case in the United States as well.
Mi Hazánk should start a crowdfunding for every politician or influencer that wants to escape Hungary, and just give them money to leave. Get the fuck out.
It's even better because now they're no longer an NGO, they're a parliamentary political party, so therefore they should make use of their position and file a legislative proposal.
Yes.
Anyone who wants to escape Hungary gets the first, 20,000 forints or 50,000 forints of the airfare, paid for by by the government. Just go.
It's a nice national welfare program.
Yes, yes, for influencers and left-wingers.
Anyway, you don't have any right-wing politician basically in the parliament. So welfare state, here, welfare, get the fuck out.
Yeah, you know, maybe put some condition that if you come back in the next 20 years, you have to pay 5 million for it back or something like that. So, no, just go. No. But what was even funnier, some of the people in our network were monitoring Twitter. There were so many people who either have never been to Hungary, or maybe they've been once on a vacation, on a city break, on a weekend or whatever, into Budapest, not the rest of the country. But they were suddenly very opinionated about the results on Twitter. What drives these people? I mean, why do they even care?
The Dunning-Kruger.
Well, it's basically the international press that has been running stories about Hungary, about how a terrible, evil, fascistic place Hungary is and all that. And you know, these are people who have never been to Hungary. They have no idea what's going on here, or
They hardly know where Hungary is.
yeah, they don't even know.
Some of them might not even know.
Yeah, it's true. They don't even know what continent we are on.
To be fair, that's controversial, so you know, I can understand. I mean, have you seen that crescent there? I mean, you know, it has strong Allahu Akbar vibes. On a more serious note, yeah, but it was this kind. I mean, even some of the leftists were starting to joke about it. They were like, literally, the New World Order and Brussels and everyone else was against Orbán,
Yes.
and he just raped them all.
Yeah, and it was brutal. I mean, it was unexpected actually that they won by this much.
It should be said that none of us expected such a spectacular result. Sure, we expected a Fidesz win, but but not like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mass rape. I thought mass rape was illegal in
Hungary.
And public mass rapes like what we've seen last evening.
Yeah.
Well,
you know, it
should be considered a crime against humanity.
No, it doesn't count when it's against commies.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
I mean,
humanity, communism.
the laws are made for people, not for communists. So, there's that. Yeah, the international press really despises Orbán, and at some point, some of these people don't even know why they despise Orbán.
Yeah.
Because when you ask them, okay, why? Fine, you don't like Orbán. Great, I don't like Orbán either. Let's have a conversation about it. Why you don't like Orbán? And the answer is usually, well, but still, why? Oh, but he's a fascist. Well, not really. Oh, he built the wall. Well, that would be the only good thing, one of the few good things that Orbán did. I mean, he's a Putinist. Not really.
No.
Not really. No.
No, that's Mihozang.
Mihozang is Putinist, yes, or at the very least Russophile, or
yes.
Yeah, I guess Russophile would be
probably yes,
a better description. But maybe, and I know I'm being too optimistic here. Maybe our international press, our as in European, maybe we'll finally find out that, look, if you want to get rid of leaders like Orbán Viktor, maybe going full Macintosh on them is not the way.
Yeah.
And maybe there is a different way.
But
yeah,
they
probably. But you know,
first have to find it.
These people are basically paid to do this. So there's an entire network. Some of it is Soros funded, some of it is Brussels or US funded, and all
The
that.
National Endowment for Democracy.
Yes, aka CIA.
AKA CIA, yes.
And well, these NGOs are basically paid to, you know, create anti-government propaganda here in Hungary, and then they also create propaganda that is meant for international audience. So they try to make
diluted down.
To try to make a bad impression. What's the of Hungary within people, and so
Orange Man bad.
yeah, basically Orange Man man.
Yeah.
Bozgor Man bad.
Bozgor Man bad, but it's particularly Orange Man bad because you know
Yeah.
Orbán is orange. You've seen his tie. There is his tie from last night's speech. I hope M1 won't
That tie was
copyright
chosen.
strike
That tie was chosen
on purpose, of
On
course,
purpose.
of course, because
Soon it will be a hate symbol on Facebook.
What, the orange color?
Yeah, the
orange color.
The orange tie.
Well, let us not forget, in several Bundesländer of Germany, it's illegal to have Z or V in public, so I can't
Why?
really... Well, because
Why V?
because the v is also a letter written by the Russians on their transporters.
They don't have V in their fucking languages, like they don't have Z in their
but the
alphabet.
I know, but the Russians did still write that on their armored vehicles.
So we
So
should
as a-
remove Z and V from every word.
Yeah, so so essentially Volodymyr Zelensky. I mean, that sounds.
Holy shit. Holy shit.
What I noticed, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it was a complete absence for all the bellyaching of the opposition that, Orbán refuses to send weapons to Ukraine. Then Markis Peter comes in and says, well, actually he does. Well, then what's the problem?
Yeah.
And all of that. But at the end of the day, the war next door was not really a serious topic for either of the forces. They did not
why
march
would
on
it
it.
be?
Well, why? Because it would have been a good way to score points.
Yeah, propaganda-wise,
Propaganda-wise, yes.
Yeah, but think
With the voters, probably not.
think at the voters first of all, and think at the entire geopolitical context. Orbán can't afford to get too many enemies. The economy is how it is, so you make the best of what you got around, just to save your economy.
I don't necessarily agree with you, because the geopolitical strategy that Orbán does, and I have explained it in the previous episode, is very popular. I mean, the Hungarian populace is not hawkish at all, and basically what's the most important thing for Hungarians is sovereignty, and I think that has been demonstrated this election, because the pro-sovereignty people voted for Fidesz, and these are the results.
And the sovereignty was one of the main campaign.
Yeah,
And the war also clicks into this narrative, because this is basically how the sovereignty narrative is constructed, because what I have explained, that we have friends in the West, we have friends in the East, and we try to be good friends with everybody, and that's why we want to be neutral. Yes.
You make the best of what you got.
You can't really be neutral while being part of NATO, so there's that.
Yeah, sure.
But at the same time, Turkey plays the same game.
Yeah, basically.
But then again, Turkey is the second biggest army in NATO, so I guess that comes with some perks. The Sultan can play certain cards that the boss in Hungary can't.
Yeah, but I mean, Fidesz has been surprisingly successful with it. I mean, Hungary today basically functions as a conservative capital in the world. Bolsonaro comes here, Tucker Carlson comes here, all sorts of conservative thinkers and think tanks are coming here. And I suspect that Trump is going to come here this May for the conservative conference that's going to be held here in Hungary. So yeah, I mean, it's actually surprisingly working. I mean, I wouldn't expect it to work it this well, but it apparently does.
Yeah, it's all mostly thanks to one very articulate negotiator, very skilled negotiator, Peter Szijjártó.
Yes.
He's really good.
Yeah.
And mostly thanks to the fact that he doesn't pretend to be a diplomat. He's like, no, I'm a politician, I'm the chief of diplomats. So, the NPCs play the diplomatic game, I don't. Which is something that you rarely see from a foreign affairs minister, even though that's really how you should play as a foreign
Lavrov
affairs
plays
minister.
the same.
Yeah, but Lavrov is also honk. Peter Szijjártó is not honk in public. Now, admittedly, Lavrov is the foreign affairs minister of Russia, so he can afford to be much more honky in public.
But then again, it has to be mentioned that the foreign policy of Hungary is basically dictated by Orbán Viktor, and Szijjártó Péter is a very good executor of the policy, basically.
Yeah, but he does it right.
Yeah, he does it well, but it's not his ideas, it's Orbán's ideas, basically.
Yeah, sure, because he's a politician, part member of the cabinet, subordinated to the prime minister.
Even in constructions, you tell the worker what you want, and he executes. So,
But the way it is executed
Yeah.
is still
Yes.
decided by the chief of the construction site,
Yeah, sure, yes.
not by the landlord.
Yeah.
So there's that. I was about to ask, we got off on this tangent about the rest of the tiers, because really the reason we followed this election so closely is to get into the salt, because there was just so much goddamn salt. And now I can understand, people who are deeply involved in the Ukraine situation, yours truly included, except I'm just not salty. Because Orbán Viktor is memeable, so if it's a memeable leader, I'm fine with it. But I can understand people deeply involved in the Ukraine situation being a bit salty. I can understand some reproaches made by Andrzej Duda of Poland for various detailed policy decisions that maybe they don't like and whatnot. What I don't understand is what is the business of like the chief of Renew Europe, for instance, which is a marginal parliamentary group in the European Parliament that nobody has ever heard of. That's why Dacian Cioloș is his leader. They have opinions about it. And especially, why do these people close to the European Commission have opinions about this situation, considering that Ursula von der Leyen is the president of the European Commission thanks to Fidesz votes? I mean, without the Fidesz delegation, she would not have been the president of the European Commission. I mean, it is consistently being made this allegation that Budapest or Orbán Viktor is anti-European, but at the end of the day, the European stability now in Brussels is thanks to Fidesz delegation.
Yeah, basically. I mean, Orbán Viktor is a great character to be the bad guy, the bad guy
who fits the profile,
who takes the blame for everything because he goes against the grain and all that. So yeah, he's basically in this position, and I suspect that the EU politicians are somewhat thankful that they have this character to blame everything on, basically.
So thank God Orbán exists, otherwise we would have to invent him.
Yeah.
So now will be what, 4th term as a prime minister. By the end of this term, it will be 16 years in power.
5th. Because there was the one in 98 and 2002, but it's the 4th consecutive term, and all of them with a 2/3 majority.
Nobody called Angela Merkel a dictator, even though Germany is not a democracy, and she ruled for 16 years in a row, and by making the most terrible decisions imaginable, as we can see now, thanks to the energy crisis, which showed just how well Mrs. Merkel ruled, But for some reason, Orbán gets consistently called a dictator, even though, just yesterday as we're taping, but a few days ago as everyone else is watching, still, more than 4 million people just voluntarily left their homes on a terrible weather and very cold weather, and went out fucking cold just to vote for Fidesz. So, who's the dictator here?
No one.
Yeah, basically no one.
No one. We've been talking a few days ago, and Hungary can campaign any day before the vote, anywhere.
And in the day of the election as well.
Anywhere.
The opposition was campaigning in front of around the Reagan statue in Szabadság tér in the day of the vote. Yeah. And no one cared, which is great. But you can't do that in France. You can't do that in Germany.
Dictatorship.
Yeah, in France, in Germany, or Romania, dictatorships. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially looking at the recent footage during the COP19. I mean, here in Hungary, none of that happened. We did not have dogs set on people, and horses trampling people, and
like in the consolidated democracy of the Netherlands, or the consolidated democracy of Canada.
So I mean, we've never had any of these kinds of events under the pandemic.
And there were protests against the pandemic measures.
Yeah, I mean, they were suppressed, but they were suppressed with fines. Basically, they were somewhat dictatorial-ish, yes. But it wasn't anywhere near as bad as some of our Western counterparts. So, you can call him a dictator all you want, but just look around Europe, and he's not the biggest dictator at all.
Why is the opposition so incapable of mounting a functional alternative.
Because they are Marxizoid public.
They are incapable. They are incapable of learning from their mistakes. They fundamentally do not understand how the Hungarian populace thinks, and they are basically in this loop, and they are doing the exact same thing over and over and over again.
What changed in the Hungarian elites since 1849 when they were in contact with the populace? Because now they are totally out of contact, out of any real problem.
I wouldn't go as far as 1849. I'll just go since the year 2000 or since the year 2006. Probably that's where we should go. Something definitely changed, because up until 2006 there was normal alternance to power.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
Sort of. It was functional.
Yes.
But then at some point something happened on the left-wing half of the elite that they just, even if they won, they just either govern dysfunctionally or simply cannot be credible enough in public. Even
Yeah, I
if
mean, they have basically not recovered ever since 2006. I mean, I don't exactly know what happened or why, but yeah, they never recovered. And as I said in the previous episode, almost all the opposition parties that got unified were originally started as a non-Gyurcsány or anti-Gyurcsány party, and then they went into the coalition eventually. And I don't exactly know why they are so broken, but they are, and they never learn from their mistakes, and they always say the exact same thing after every single election. The two kinds of salt that I've seen today the most is more healthcare, and the other one is we will just all the intellectuals are going to leave, and this will be a shithole country.
what's the problem with healthcare?
Well, there are problems.
In addition to being dysfunctional, which is the case in all state-run
Well, yes, it's
healthcares.
dysfunctional. Yes, but I mean the public healthcare is very dysfunctional. The private healthcare is somewhat okay. I mean, it's
acceptable.
It's acceptable. It's, of course, it's not cheap, but it's better than in many places. And the public healthcare sucks everywhere, and in many places it sucks much worse
Much
than
more,
here,
yes.
like the NHS, for example.
Or the Italian one.
Yeah, and they will of course say that the next time we will unify better, and
So that's their strategy for 4 years from now? Get another...
that's what they
something.
have been doing all the time.
They tried something. This time they chose somehow conservative-looking candidate, just to appeal to the masses.
Yes. Unfortunately, it backfired.
My question is, did the Central European University had a role in breaking the relationship between the populace and the elite, the intellectuality?
Oh yes, that's a very good point. I mean, the leftist elite that we have has been becoming more and more Western in the progressive sense. So they basically hold the exact same ideas that you would find in an American college. And the Hungarian populace is very far away from that.
It's just not in an American
So basically,
college.
getting the Central University, the Central European University, out of the country might backfire against Orbán, because it will create another link between the populace and the left-leaning intellectuality.
Intelligence.
I think it's too late for that, because it's not just Central European University. It's almost all the universities at this point here in Hungary. So yeah.
That's another thing. Aren't universities, okay, CEU was privately owned, whatever. But aren't universities, generally speaking, owned by the state?
Yes, they are. And I mean, for example, when it comes to ELTE is basically owned by pro-Fidesz people. So that the top people, the directors, are pro-Fidesz. But the ideology taught at ELTE is still heavily leftist. And they have like courses on they have basically Orbán man bad courses that literally.
The reason I'm asking is because this will probably be the next step, or the next necessary step, or should be the next necessary step, not just here, but everywhere where conservatives end up ruling, even if partially. We have to dismantle these quote-unquote educational networks somehow.
Yeah, they have started doing that, but every time they make a small step, the whining is generally huge, because you basically step into the hornet's nest, and they of course start whining and protesting, and if you remember the SFF protests were very big, and it was a big campaigning issue and all that, so. They are trying, but it's a very slow process.
It can be
and
can
another
be faster
question:
with helicopters.
the whining of the intelligentsia in Budapest might have triggered the populace about the Central University. Their whining might have triggered the populace to lean more towards Orbán.
Yeah.
Make them cry is a legit argument to vote for Orbán.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had a Hungarian passport, I would have voted for Orbán just so I can see these people cry, not because I like Orbán.
Yeah, it's this old socialist elite that...
And the entire socialist, social left, all the whining and all the campaign for against his law projects, for example, the one with pedophilia or whatever that is. It's not pedophilia, it's basically sexualization
of mind.
Sexualization might have triggered the entire populace to vote for Orbán just to see them fuck off. Basically.
Make them cry again is a serious and legitimate argument. It was definitely a part of the vote for Brexit. It was a part of vote for Boris Johnson. It was a part of the vote for Trump, of course. Make them cry. Same thing in Romania. I mean, like half of our votes are kids who are like, let's see the journalists cry because it's too delicious and the tears are so delicious. Of course.
There is a lot of that.
But in the case of Orbán, Viktor is obviously a lot more and something more of a substance than that. Because you don't get 2/3 majority just want to make them cry.
That's what I'm asking. It's a huge portion of the voters that never changed opinion, or if they did, they were replaced by others
who got convinced.
Like the new voters, the young, 18, 20 years old. That went for the first time to vote. So
it's definitely doing something
that
right.
whining has that huge of a result.
I mean, it definitely does have an effect. There is a lot of polarization against these kinds of people, these rich people from the Balkans.
You mean the Buddha?
You mean Buddha?
Yeah, I mean Buddha.
Okay.
These rich faggots who just think that they know better than everybody else, and
this seems to be a recurring problem. Almost all countries of Europe and definitely North America keep on getting these, not necessarily rich, because some of them aren't even rich. They're just faggot in public. And they maybe act rich sometimes, because Elon Musk, for instance, is a very successful African American, and he doesn't think that he knows better than everyone else. But some others do, who are much poorer than Elon Musk. But we keep on getting these kinds of people. But even so, they're nowhere near as toxic as they, I mean, at least when it comes to the radicalism in the discourse on the left here, I'll have to be honest, kind of frightens me a little bit.
Yeah, it does frighten me as well. But, it's very hard to do anything about them. For example, with the replacing of the staff of the universities, it's just hard to do because there are simply just not enough well-trained educators to replace them. conservative educators.
Let's have fewer universities.
That's why
until
it's called the long march through institutions.
Yes.
You take them one by one.
Yeah, it's a
one
slow process.
Funeral at a
one
time.
funeral at a time.
It's a slow process.
It is. What do essentially what is next? I mean, they're going to do the same thing 4 years from now.
Well, what I think is going to happen is that the international attacks are going to intensify a lot in the next 4 years, and yes, they will attempt the next year. I have no idea what the situation will be by then, but you have to look at the fact that Orbán will have a very hard term these 4 years, because pandemic, the war, and the economic fallout, and all that. It will be a very hard thing to manage, and they will, of course, try in 4 years, and I don't know. We'll see what happens.
The local elections are in about 5 months or so.
Yeah.
It should be in September.
Yeah, September, October, something like that.
Are you going to finally change the mayor in Budapest? And
I hope so.
Put the competent one back.
I don't think he wants to be mayor again, but yes, somebody more competent than Karácsony Gergely would be good.
Because
Christmas George.
Christmas George. I mean, this current guy is just slowly ruining the place. Another term of this guy would be quite a disappointment for sure.
But then again, if you look at the votes of this election, most of the districts, the opposition won by not that big of a percentage.
Yeah, we were looking at precisely that when they started counting in the votes by districts in Budapest. You would expect the opposition to have plus 20 or plus 17. Yeah. In reality, they had plus 7, plus 5, plus 3, or minus 2 in 2 districts. So it is into play. For many years, Budapest was not considered a competitive district for Fidesz, but, well, it kind of was. Yeah. I mean, we kept on going to all sorts of places like Gödöllő or Hódmezővásárhely to look for battleground districts, when we could have just stayed in Budapest, which turned out to be a battleground place in itself.
Yes, that was very surprising, yes.
Fidesz has been very good at recruiting newer-ish or youngish new parliamentarians, new local leaders and whatnot. The opposition is still running with Gyurcsány.
Oh, come on.
Isn't there a generational problem with there too?
Yeah, I mean, the stock of politicians that the opposition has is deteriorating as well. So
why is that?
It's not really good. I don't know. I mean, Gyurcsány basically suffocates the entire opposition because he is still the most competent politician on the left. And everybody hates him, and because because he's the most competent, they cannot get rid of him. But because everybody hates him, nobody wants to vote for them. So it's a tough spot, and it's a difficult situation basically, and that's why Orbán keeps winning.
But you have new think tanks, even in Budapest, conservative think tanks.
Yes.
What are they doing? Why aren't they breeding the new generation of politicians?
Well,
they
are breeding.
They should have done it years ago.
But they are breeding Fidesz politicians, basically.
Yeah, but
you're saying it's not fast enough.
Yeah.
Wow.
They should have started years ago.
Well, they did.
And where are the results?
Well, you've seen the results last night.
No, I haven't. I've seen the same results for the last 16 years. Changed results for 16 years doesn't mean that the think tanks are breeding new politicians.
And so you're basically pulling a Hillary Clinton now. So why I'm not 50 points ahead, essentially? No, it's a fair question. Because other than Szijjártó Péter, I guess all of the others are really also from the old guard. Szijjártó would be the crown jewel of the new crop of politicians. So that's a bit not enough.
One for fuck's sake.
One of the top tier, but admittedly there've been few others that
Well, I mean, Varga Judit is also a newer one.
Varga Judit too, yes.
Okay.
And also Novák Katalin, I don't think she's that old.
Yeah, but she's not from this new generation.
Yeah.
This new crop.
I've seen on the opposition side a lot of young faces.
But incompetent.
True, as any leftist.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
new faces like the SS Barbie you showed us. All of that, the fuckable new young politicians.
Yeah, then again, I don't know what Fidesz is going to do after Orbán Viktor retires or dies.
That was my next question.
Yeah, because basically the Fidesz party is Orbán Viktor. I mean, he's basically carrying the whole thing. Even with some of these competent politicians, there are some of them, but
And he's not preparing an heir. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not preparing someone to live up to his name.
Yeah, and take his
after
place.
he retires.
Yeah. Maybe he's not considering retiring. Maybe those memes with Orbán in 2040.
Okay, legit. But then it will be a new Nur-Sultan situation. Yeah, old man go home.
Yeah, well, but there's still another 28 years till then. So
You should have created new politicians, even for the local districts, for the small towns, for the villages.
Well, Toroczkai Laszlo started as a mayor of 4,000 people.
Yes, and I mean, as honkish as the Mihozányi politicians are,
they are young.
Yeah, they tend to be younger and kind of competent as well. I mean, they have just gotten 7 new seats.
The problem is that young politicians appeal to people more faster than the old guard. Yeah, they tend to collect more votes than the old guard.
Yeah,
and you risk a party like Mihozáng, a fascist party, with young politicians getting a lot of votes just because they are young.
Yes.
And they are willing.
It is a fair risk for sure. Let's talk a bit about Mihozáng. Where did these people come from?
Yeah, they basically come from the nationalist radical movement from the 90s, basically from MIEP.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the whole thing got started, basically. When communism fell, MIEP was founded by Csurka István, and he basically bred the new generation of nationalist radical politicians. So it was MIEP, and then it was the Jobbik that they founded, and once Jobbik decided to become global homo, then all the radical fascists basically fucked off to Mihozánk.
The movement for the motherland movement, I guess.
Yeah,
would be the
our
translation.
home.
Our motherland.
Yeah, our motherland.
Yeah. Speaking of Jobbik, why did Jobbik become global homo? In addition to Gábor Vana moving to Israel, I mean that was probably one of the reasons, but probably not the only one. Why did Jobbik just was yearning for attention?
I mean, Jobbik had always had this divide of the radicals and the ones who leaned a bit more centrist,
or at least to work within the system.
Yeah, and what Vona Gábor did is he started to move the party further to the center, because he wanted to gather more votes by moving to the center, and
he did.
Yeah, and he did move it, and that meant a lot of new centrist people coming into Jobbik as well. And in 2018, when they lost, that was basically the end of Vona Gábor, because that was his failure, and he promised that he would resign, and he did. And then there was a voting between Toroczkai László and some other dude, I don't remember his name, who was the centrist candidate, and Toroczkai László was the
far right,
the radical candidate, yes. And eventually he lost, and so Jobbik went with the centrist guy, and then Toroczkai László got kicked out, and everybody else who did not like this approach, this more centrist approach, basically fucked off from the party. So they were left with the centrists and
the global homo.
and then they became global homo. But even while they were becoming global homo, there were images surfacing of your big politicians, doing the salute.
Yeah, they were socially distancing.
Yeah.
You would expect that from Jobbik, for fuck's sake.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, out of no reason, people voted for Trotsky last way
Yes.
to the parliament.
I mean, I really did not understand Jobbik after 2020, basically. Because what was their base? They were no longer far right. They were more left than Fidesz.
On economics, yes.
Well, just generally, even socially, I mean.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
They were more left than Fidesz, so they could not garner the radical fasci vote anymore, and they were not they were not that global homo and progressive as the people they unified with. So what was their base? Where were they wanting to gather votes from? That was my basic question, and nobody. I mean, because Fidesz holds the right-wing votes, Mi Hazánk holds the far-right votes, and then there is the global homo. There is no more room.
Yeah, so they wanted to be somewhere between global homo and the mainstream right, I guess.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that always leads to bankruptcy, or almost always.
And it's the conservative approach, basically.
The conservative approach,
Yeah.
yes.
So Boris Johnson way.
Not even.
They're
I mean,
even worse, yes.
Boris Johnson at least got into power. I'm just saying. Because that's another thing. It seems that so many of these parties don't play to get power. And I'm like, why would you create a political party if you don't want power?
Oh no, you are talking about Mi Hazánk.
And Mi Hazánk and Jobbik up to a point. But Mi Hazánk, yes, too.
Well, Jobbik wanted power within the opposition. That was their strategy. That's how they planned to remain in power, and it basically worked out because they made this deal with the Gyurcsány party within the opposition. That was a separate deal within the opposition, and that basically secured them a lot of seats on the list. And so Jobbik has like 10, 11 seats in the parliament, so that worked out. But they don't really have any base. The people voted for the unified opposition list and not Jobbik. It just happens to be that Jobbik secured its positions within the opposition well.
So basically, the only party that got into the parliament
By being
itself
is Mi Hazánk.
is Mi Hazánk and
Fidesz.
Fidesz, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that note, with Csak a Fidesz, let's listen to
Let's
small,
play Csak a Fidesz, and also then at the end we're gonna play April 4th.
let's listen to a small song about Fidesz.
And then we'll be back and discuss a bit more about Mi Hazánk, because I have other questions for Dániel as well.
Azt nem tudunk, de jobb világért már dolgozunk. Hogy jobb legyen mindenkinek, nekem, a gyerekeink. Csak hinni kell, hogy a célod elérjed. Tudd meg, hogy mi vagyunk a Fidesz, hallgass, hogy dobognak a szívek. Tudd meg, hogy mi leszünk a kormány, ezt majd kimondja az ország. Tudd meg, hogy mi vagyunk a Fidesz, bennünk a szavazóink hite. Tudd meg, hogy mi leszünk a kormány, ezt majd kimondja az ország. Csodát tenni, azt nem tudunk, de egy jobb világért már dolgozunk. Jönnek nekem a gyerekeim. Csak hinni kell, hogy a célod elérjed. Tudd meg, hogy mi vagyunk a Fidesz. Hallgass, hogy dobognak a szívek. Tudd meg, hogy mi leszünk a kormány. Ezt majd kimondja az ország. Tudd meg, hogy mi vagyunk a Fidesz. Bennünk a szavazóink hite. Tudd meg, hogy mi leszünk a kormány. Ezt majd kimondja az ország. Hát kinek jó ez így, magyarok? Ez így nem mehet tovább. Választhatok. A jövőnk a kezünkben, és a remény a szívünkben. Tudd meg, hogy mi vagyunk a Fidesz. Hallgass, hogy dobognak a szívek. Tudd meg, hogy mi leszünk a kormány. Ezt majd kimondja az ország. Tudd meg, hogy mi vagyunk a Fidesz. Bennünk a szavazóink hite. Tudd meg, hogy mi leszünk a kormány. Ezt majd kimondja az ország.
All right, we're back, csak a Fidesz. Where did we let it off? Yes, mi hazánk. So where did we left it off? So they're coming from the old radical groups. This new leader fucks off from Jobbik and forms his own party. The reason I'm spending a bit of time on their existence is because, as Alin pointed out, they do have this ability of appealing to a younger crop of voters.
Yes.
Now, sure, youth radicalism routinely fades off with time. So, you know, someone 18 or 20 now may vote for Mihozank, but there's no guarantee that that same person will vote for Mihozank 10 years from now or 12 years from now. But what if they do? And such a political party is definitely not a danger to anyone at 6% or even at 16% or 17%. But after 20, they become a bit dangerous.
Yeah.
And you can understand the concern, and it's not just the concern for Romania's national security, but generally these kinds of parties that have a past of playing too much outside of the political game, they tend to also raise concerns. Has the establishment thought about that? And by the establishment, I mean Fidesz, obviously.
Well, of course. I mean, the Mihozank party was suppressed by any means, basically, that they could think about. So, for example, they wanted to print their
flyers.
Their flyers and propaganda stuff, and basically, Fidesz blackmailed their printers to not print them.
Yeah, that's a blunt way. It kind of glows, and
it glows, but you know,
it radicalizes them even further.
Yeah, but they have been trying to suppress the Mihozank vote. For example,
yeah, and that's stupid. Sorry, but that's stupid.
No, he didn't say it makes sense. He was just describing.
I'm just telling you what they did. Well, allegedly, at least.
Allegedly, okay.
Yeah, just like they allegedly got censored on Facebook, and
yeah.
Then
no, that's factual.
No. It turns out that it was a cyber attack. No, obviously it was not a political decision. I mean, even they say that, and that's quite weird. Yeah, but you know, censoring them, it obviously doesn't work. It just radicalizes them further. At some point, not just the establishment, but also the left will have to engage those people, because there are still, I mean, behind that 6.6%, there's real people.
Yes.
And of course, some of them voted because of the Okovid ditatura bold message, but some of them voted for the other messages.
Yeah, but that core base within the Hungarian population basically stands at around 3%. These are the people who embrace this whole universe that these people live in, you know, with these Turanism and all sorts of honky, weird, right-wing, esoteric stuff.
Or Trianon smirk.
No, it's not just Trianon.
No,
it's-
Otrianon's milk is just a portion of the universe. He's right. I mean, there is some pagan elements too,
Yes.
and there is some mythology in it, and they know it's mythology,
Yeah.
but they still. I mean, they're not necessarily manipulated. They just.
Yeah, I mean these are people who walk around on their belt with this little bag called tarsoly, because that's what their ancestors were wearing in 1850. You know.
I mean, if they were running around with a sword or with a pistol, I mean, that would have been based, but because there's another thing, and we were having the off-the-record conversation that these kinds of parties, Mihozank in particular, their economic policies, generally speaking, either naive or outright Leninist or
Yeah, it's pretty leftist.
yeah, but on certain social issues, I mean, some of them are just outright lunacy, but some are not.
Yes.
Some are not. Some are still legitimate policies, and they
Yeah.
would have to be addressed at some point. If you want to get rid of these kinds of loony parties,
Yeah, but that's actually a good tactic that Fidesz used against Jobbik previously, is to basically just take their good ideas and implement it. And so, yeah.
Basically disarm them.
Yeah. So the legitimate points that they do have, they just take it and make it their own. That's what happened with the border wall, basically.
Mihozank had the idea.
Jobbik, because back then Mihozank did not exist, but you know,
Yeah,
the
the
exact
radical
same
part
people.
of Jobbik had the idea that you should build a wall
Yeah,
at the
border
border.
fence. Yeah,
So they got to build the wall, and then Jobbik fizzled out because.
pretty
Yeah,
much.
Seems legit. The same thing happened in Sweden with Sverigedemokraterna. The radical positions on beggars and the borders. Eventually, they got implemented by the Social Democrats.
But you shouldn't go in Sweden because the same thing happened in Romania with our and COVID policies.
Not really. Not really.
The Social Democrats took some of their good ideas and just dropped step by step the measures.
Yeah, but in the end, we have yet to see any result on that because it's only been less than a month.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see whether that theory holds in the case of Romania. We don't know yet at the moment of this recording, anyway. But in Sweden, definitely it did work. It sent Sverigedemokraterna into a desperation spiral because
in France.
it worked in France as well.
Where
Yeah.
Macron took the anti-Islamic basically policies from the far
From
right
the far right, yeah, and they started
and
implementing
implemented
them. And now it's kind of difficult. I mean, if you're Zemmour and most of your campaign is Islam man bad, and then the rest of the establishment be like, yes, Islam man bad, of course. That's why we're creating a state-enforced Diyanet. That's why we're picking up the radicals on the streets. And we're picking up the radicals of the streets. And look, just in the last month alone, we deported 25,000 Muslims, and we did this and we did that. How do you retort to that? And now, Zemmour is kind of flattened a little bit. Of course, it also doesn't help. I mean, with the war, this war, comes very handy with so many political groups on all sides of the spectrum. Because in France they wanted to get rid of Zemmour and Le Pen. Well, the war is great because they both got shekels from Russia.
Yeah.
Zemmour actually liked Putin at some point, and Front National, Rassemblement National now, was funded by Russia. Of course, not now, but 4 years ago. Or five years ago.
And then again, we don't know if Mihozank is actually funded by Russia or not.
Yeah,
Because Jobbik was, and we know that. That's known. But I don't know if Mihozank is funded by them, but they are Russophilic, so.
Well, you can see that the funding differences after the radical part of the Jobbik left and formed the Mihozank, did the events planned or developed by Jobbik became more rare or smaller?
I actually don't know because I wasn't following it back then.
Because if the events, the propaganda got a little slower, with not
But
so
then again,
with not so great reach,
I have not really seen any Jobbik events anymore, like ever. So
But you've seen Miazang.
yes, oh, there have been plenty.
Yeah. So
So
basically,
most likely
the
is that
funding.
they left with the networking and
Yes.
funding.
Yeah, probably.
Why is what is the motivation? I could look this one up, but it's probably difficult for me to find it. What is the motivation for their Russophilia? Because this country has also a terrible history with Russia, so it's quite difficult to be Russophile in public.
Well, it's basically the same reason why Fidesz does the whole neutrality thing. It's because Hungary cannot really trust the West. Because, there's the saying,
Can't blame them.
with allies like these, who needs enemies?
Who needs enemies? Yes.
And, the West has basically been funding, anti-government, basically anti-Hungarian propaganda.
For 12 years already.
Yeah.
That's why I say you can't blame them, because
Oh no, I'm not saying that anyone should be blamed.
So yeah, this is why there is basically the reason why Russophilia is. I wouldn't say it's big, but it's
a thing.
It's a thing, and it's definitely bigger than in other countries of the Intermarium, because
Except Serbia, I guess.
yeah, of course.
And in Serbia, again, it's understandable. As
The
much
small
as
Russia.
as much as I don't like it, it's understandable.
Because of all the international attacks from the West that
all
come to
the
Hungary.
threats that you won't get any European funding and all that shit.
Yeah, and all the
Basically radicalized your population
Yeah, and all
against
the-
the West, and for sent them in Putin's arms.
yeah, basically, all the thing with the LMBTQ and the BLM and
Yeah, BLM in Hungary.
and Antifa.
Oh,
yeah,
come
we have an
on.
Antifa actually.
You have blacks in Hungary.
Yeah, 10 or okay,
Now,
1,000.
what was that region?
Yes, but Ősvezető is a terrible place.
And so basically, what Fidesz does is the sensible thing is to channel these
Rages.
these rages, these feelings into a neutrality policy. But then again, some people will, of course, become Russophilic because of these. Not because of Fidesz, but because of the West.
Not everyone is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are fundamentally flawed, so I
Yes.
guess there's that.
But channeling that rage in nationalism and patriotism.
That's okay. Well,
That's what I was saying. It's perfectly okay because it's constructive.
or at least can be.
Yeah, it can be constructive.
Yes.
Not always, but
But voting for parties like Miozang, it's not really constructive.
it is constructive if it's at 7%. It's very constructive.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, if it's at 7%.
In the current political situation, I think voting for Miozang is actually very constructive.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. I
But
mean,
trying to censor them, trying to blackmail the
printing
printers
press, yeah.
not to print their material.
yeah, that sucks.
That's a stupid idea because radical ideas should be in the sunlight. Should
Yes.
be brought into
Yes.
sunlight and disinfected by the sunlight.
Yeah, I like my loons in the public square, so I
Yeah.
can observe them rather than have to look underground with a
But
flashlight.
then again, Fidesz operatives are, not as smart as the legend says. It's just that their opposition sucks a lot more.
Yeah, about this.
It's
which-
just that meme with the Ukrainian, well, lucky they're so stupid talking about Russians.
Oh yeah. There is a video from one of the frontline battles around Kyiv, where Ukrainian soldiers are explaining that look, now we're going to fire into that direction because we got intel that they're there. Normally they should be able to stop us, but luckily they're so stupid that they're not seeing this coming. With this aspect with sucking less, we were
Yes.
also having the conversation last night as we were watching glorious M1 coverage.
Jesus fucking Christ,
From
that
the
was
election.
absolutely delicious.
and we were discussing precisely this, that there, and certainly there are, I mean, I don't know how many of them, but certainly there should be generic liberals, classical or modern degenerate ones, but liberals who'll be like, look, I want to support the opposition,
Yeah.
but you guys suck.
Yeah.
And from that sentiment, normally there should arise a better alternative. Yet it doesn't. And that,
No, it doesn't, because every time they make a party and then they look around the political landscape, well, the only way to win is to side with Gyurcsány. And that's what happens every single time.
so I guess there is a Gyurcsány problem.
Yeah, we
when
have
the
a,
politician that was caught lying about the state of the
Yeah.
economy
and he just
is
doesn't
the
want to
most
fuck off.
competent
Yes.
politician in the
Yes.
opposition, they have a problem. Like we were saying about Romania.
Yeah,
When
nothing
the
without
most
precedent.
loved president is a drunk sailor accused of selling the fleet.
I mean, it's basically the same.
We have a problem.
It's basically the same situation as Brazil with Lula.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, he's still very popular, and you know
Hey, he might even win.
he might even win, even though everybody knows how corrupt he is and how much he fucked up the country.
Yeah, but at least Lula has a path to presidency, whereas the opposition here, realistically speaking,
Yeah,
doesn't have a path to
Yes.
to gaining power. Not in this format, anyway.
yeah.
Because you'll never get the votes of disaffected liberals. Let's put it this way.
One
Would be like,
question.
I love you guys, but you suck.
Have you ever heard talks about creating a new opposition?
Yes, that's a constant topic. You
No,
know,
no, something that is actually done, not just the talking.
Well, that's why they elected Markizai Péter. That something was done.
Jesus fuck.
Something was done.
Something realistic.
Because Markizai Péter in the primaries ran as the opposition of the opposition. And that's why...
And the opposition took him as a candidate.
Yes, well, because he got elected in their own primary.
Fuck, hit me.
That's,
Atâta s-a putut.
that's basically what happened.
Yep.
So I guess what I'm asking is, isn't there a better crop of people? There have to be.
No.
No, there probably is, but
Yeah,
they're probably just as disgusted with politics.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
they are
co-
basically
as
black
I am.
Black-pilled, yes.
Yeah, as I am or you are.
Yeah, I mean, none of us would actually run for office.
No.
And then again, I mean, I'm not exactly happy about another 2/3 for Fidesz, because you know they've been having it
Of
for
course,
for
it's
way too long.
Orbánomics, for fuck's sake. You
Yeah.
can't be happy about that.
I mean, the best result would have been a hung parliament, yes.
I mean, I wanted to I wanted them to remain in power slightly. You know, that would have been
55.
yeah. I think that would have been the optimal outcome of this election. You know, with Orbán in government and an opposition that's big enough against him, and the Mi Hazánk, you know, who to tip the scales.
You told us on the Telegram channel that the referendum
Yeah.
about the laws didn't pass.
Yes.
Why?
Yeah, I think this year around there have been many liberals who voted for Fidesz because, well, pandemic
but they cancelled their votes
They
for the
did.
yes,
referendum.
well, yes, because you know they are pro LGBTQ whatever, but despite that they voted for Fidesz because the opposition is way too panic hard, and well, the war. Nobody wants war.
Yeah, and the main slogan underneath Orbán Viktor at his victory speech was peace and stability.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
Peace and security.
yeah, peace and security.
Biztonság.
Yeah, peace and
Yep.
security. And it's really interesting. The same slogan was the winning slogan for Alexander Vucic in neighboring Serbia. The elections were held at the same time.
Yeah.
And I watched in replay the Serbian part when I got home after we watched the
Yep.
elections here. But yeah, with the referendum, I guess the opposition strategy of cancelling enough votes not to get it validated eventually did work.
Yeah, it basically worked out, but I don't think that will affect much.
How will the propaganda go from
Well,
here?
of course, the propaganda will go from here as well, 95% no.
So they will count the cancelled votes.
Yeah.
Even though the left canceled them.
No. They just ignore it.
No, they just ignore the cancel.
No, it's just they look at the valid votes, and the valid votes 95% no.
Therefore, 95% of the population doesn't want degeneracy in schools.
Yes.
Therefore, the law remains in force.
Yes.
Because the detail that people have to remember is that the laws debated, discussed in the referendum
Are
already in force. And the referendum is being held at the behest of the Evrosayuz, who said, well, the law is terrible. And Orbán be like, well, let's see what the people think about
And
it.
then again, the law itself is only communication.
Yes.
The law does not have any
Sanctions.
legal sanctions if you break them. So it's a communication law that had a communication referendum that basically did not matter what the outcome was because
but now
It just
the
communicated.
Evrosayuz can't object.
Well, they
the
can,
law.
but every time the government,
So
Orbán,
look, 95. Fuck off.
95% no, so...
And that's what happened with the previous referendum with the migrant quotas. 98% no, even though the referendum itself did not pass.
Yeah, so the wall still got built because,
Yes.
well, 98% of the people said we need a wall, so therefore we're gonna build a wall. It wasn't the kind. I mean, the press in Romania treated, and the left in the Netherlands I've seen, and the left in Sweden that they spoke about this. They treat it as a binding referendum, and as if it doesn't legally pass, then something important happens. No, not really.
nothing important.
Not really.
Nothing happens.
What's interesting is that the questions were phrased in such a way that no normal person could answer yes.
Yeah.
And still 7%.
5 to
did.
7% did say yes. But I'm like, if you disagree, well, why don't you just vote yes? Instead of this whole thing, we're going to cancel the vote or not attend or not get a ballot for
The questions were phrased in a way that
You
you
look
were
terrible.
morally obliged to vote no. Otherwise, you looked pretty
But
terrible.
the questions made sense. I mean,
I know they made sense, but the way they were formulated,
phrased.
phrased, it wasn't a way that you could actually tick the yes box without getting your family to kick you out of the house or something.
Sure. But then again,
The votes are
the
anonymous.
implication is that the people we are against want that, and that's actually true.
Yeah, that is the scary part in a way. I mean, the fact that there are people out there, including in this country, sure, there are not many of them, but there are quite a few, at least 7% according to the official results,
Yep.
who unironically think, yeah, of course we should teach
Yes.
chemical castration to children. And I'm like,
But of course,
Count the cancel votes. How big was the percent of the
it was
cancel?
like 28, yeah.
28 and plus 7, so you have a third of the population that basically voted yes. They cancelled the votes because they were too cowards
Yeah, but then again, most
to
people
vote yes.
Most people are ignorant on the situation in the West. They say that it's just Fidesz propaganda. They genuinely believe that it's just Fidesz propaganda when it's not.
Well, it is and it's not. It's a bit more complicated.
it definitely happens, and
Yeah.
that is the problem, that right-wing activism either depicted the situation as more extreme than it is,
Yeah.
whereas the left was focused on outright denialism and
Yeah.
say that, well, it never happens,
but
it's just
painting
far-right
it-
propaganda.
Painting it more extreme than it is makes it to sound like a story. Something unreal. You can't convince people to vote for something if your story seems unreal.
It seems like a fairy tale, yeah.
Yeah.
And it does sound unreal. I mean, think of
Yeah, it is.
Think of rural voters from anywhere in the Intermarium, really, telling them that, look, there are places on this planet where intellectuals, people who've studied a lot, who've read thousands of books, unironically believe that we should be teaching chemical castration to your 5-year-old. It does sound unreal. And if I hadn't seen it myself in the United States, I would still be like, oh, are we sure we're reading the right sources?
Yes.
I mean, is this really legit? And of course, I read the WHO documents and whatnot, and obviously it's real, but it does sound unreal.
Just a few decades ago, it was just as unreal in the West as it is here. So
Even less than that. I mean, in 2001, there were 0 countries on earth that even considered gay marriage.
Yeah.
0. And just
20 years later.
Just 7 years ago, there were only 2 countries in the world that, well, not 7, 9 years ago, just 2 countries in the world had gay marriage. A few more had civil partnerships, but gay marriage only 2.
yeah.
The Netherlands and Belgium. And now you're a far-right fascist state if you want to be just like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Or reactionary. I mean, the word reactionary ticks me the most because I'm like,
Well, actually, we are reactionary.
Well, I am
because that's the
unironically a
Evrosayus.
reactionary, so I take
That's,
it as a
that's the
compliment.
Evrosayus.
yes,
the-
in relation to the Evrosayus, I am a reactionary, yes, very unironic.
I take it as a compliment because I'm unironically a reactionary.
Yeah, of course, I mean, you still call it the Horthy Miklós
Yes.
bridge. So,
And the Franz Josef bridge.
And the Franz Josef bridge, so yes, you
Now
are.
we've been to the Horthy
Yeah,
bridge today.
we've also been to the Horthy bridge
Yep.
today. It looks good.
Nice.
It is a very fine balance that we'll have to find it. We, as in all of us who are not on the left, we're gonna have to find it somehow and maintain.
We'll
it.
have to depict the situation in a way that it doesn't sound like a horrible horror fairy tale or some horror story took out from the Grimm brothers.
I mean, it is kind of horroristic, you know.
It
I
is.
know it is, but that's the problem.
But conveying
you
the
can't
meaning that
reach
is
the
real.
public with a story that seems unreal.
Even if it is real.
Even if it is real, yeah. I went to old people in Romania and I talked to them about situations in Texas with the kid that went through sex change because his mother wanted so. Yeah, the one that was blocked basically by the governor. And they were looking like me.
and the
at me.
babushka be like, what the
Yeah.
What?
They looked at me
come
like,
on.
oh come on, you're talking bullshit.
You're talking
No,
out of your
look
ass.
here. And I had to take out articles to show them that the story happened.
Yeah.
And it's hard for them to believe. And if you exaggerate that story, it becomes even more unreal, even more like a script of a horror movie.
Yeah, but then even when you do show them, oh, it's an isolated incident. That's what they always say every single time.
Well, rural people in the intermarium don't
Okay,
go
no,
that
but
far.
you know, I'm talking
yeah,
about.
but I'm interested in that because those are where the votes are.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, rural people in the intermarium have a much more influence over our governments than the whiners in Brussels.
Hence kétharmad baszod.
Yes, 2/3, goddammit. Although, of course, it's also funny to poke fun at Brussels, as Orbán said. You know, our victory is visible from the moon, but it looks great from Brussels.
Yes, that's certainly from Brussels.
Certainly from Brussels, yes. Because if we don't do that, then we'll probably end up in a even more radicalized situation. Because what our American friends don't understand is that, well, the United States is a young nation and accustomed to taking chances, risk things. If it gets fucked up, you just try it again because the whole nation is an experiment. But here we're talking old nations. I mean, you know, almost all countries in Europe are at least 800 years old, most of them even older than that. And we've been through all forms of government, and we're not really attached to a certain form of government. You know, we've been empires and pashaliks and suzerains and commies and fascists.
My problems with that is that they don't believe it. The situation comes to Europe, it becomes real. And the moment it reaches the country, it will make the people blow.
Yeah, it could blow up
It could blow
terrible
up
way.
violently. The last thing I want is a civil war in my country between the left and the right. Because once the violence starts, you're never sure if you can stop it or when you can stop it.
Yeah, it's easy to start a revolution. The more difficult part is controlling.
And then what?
Yeah, and then what? It becomes a bit more complicated. One more aspect with the media, because you said, the Fidesz has tried, or at least Fidesz-aligned media outlets have tried to also present in Hungarian or for a Hungarian audience a relatively balanced crop of news from the West. But or sometimes with a bias, sometimes not really, because I found some of them pretty decently presented. But it's only them that they try this, and we do have a problem in the Intermarium. All of the countries in the Intermarium have this problem. We tend to get the news about our neighbors from Berlin-influenced media.
Oh yeah,
And that's quite haram, and it's something that maybe us as civilians could start solving bit by bit.
Yeah, but for that you need networks just to direct young people to journalism and make them learn the languages of the neighbors. That's not easy.
Yeah, until you get to that point, at the very least, we should be having some power. I mean, there is Remix News that does Eastern Europe-ish news in English.
yeah.
Or a network, a pan-European network, to collect the news and
that's
translate them.
difficult. Yeah, but that's difficult. It's very expensive. They tried it with the Gatestone Institute, and
it failed.
No, it didn't fail, but it was only focused on Islam, and even on that, just reporting Islamic-related incidents all over Europe,
Yeah.
and it ate all of the time available of the editors there. So having that for general news,
That says about a lot about Islam.
well, it also says a lot about the kebab problem.
If
Yes.
the entire think tank couldn't afford more time for anything else but Islam, says a lot about Islam.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's probably another reason why it passed. Why the referendum passed 98% here. Should we get a wall? Yes, again. But we really need that, because there's Remix News, there's Hungary Today, I guess, in English. There's Romania Insider, which is decent but quite small, a very small team. Almost nothing in Bulgaria. I mean, the news in Bulgaria, I went with Victor in November, and there is English language news in Bulgaria. Novinite, for instance, publishes in English. But the news that they present in English are entirely different from the news that the Bulgarians read. This is when we arrived there on the English language news, there's full of cough, and you have to do this, and you have to do that, and on the streets of Sofia, nobody gave a shit, and we will stop at the first newspaper kiosk, essentially, and bought 24 Chasa, which is the newspaper that everyone reads in Sofia.
Yeah.
And the discussion about COVID-19 was like on page 27.
Because that's what you do.
That's how important it was, but you would get a distorted image from the online media, and that's another problem. We've become accustomed to, we're gonna just document online.
Yeah.
And there's only lewds like me who are just like, no, let's take the train and let's get there. Let's see, is it really that bad? And that's something that we should get into the habit of doing, and we're not.
My question is, how many of the newspapers in Hungary present news from the neighbors?
They kind of do.
In Hungarian and from the local news in
Neighboring countries.
in the neighboring countries.
Well, I would not be able to say a percentage, but there is a decent amount of news from.
They're much better than
much
the
better
Romanian.
than us,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
Okay. So you're on a good path. For the
It's on
moment.
a slightly better path, yes. Up until the war started in Ukraine, I was whining and shouting and, yes, filing complaints against the Romanian media, because they would never present, not biased news, no news at all from our neighbors, be it Serbia, be it Hungary, be it Bulgaria, okay, Moldova, but that's the same language, that Moldova is
They
really a country.
started presenting.
But then again, on the Freedom Alternative newsfeed, I regularly see news in Romanian
Yeah, but
from Hungary.
Yeah,
yes,
but Freedom Alternative Newsfeed is
a curated place. Basically 3 or 4 of us routinely stick around on the state agency, and we just purposefully look for them to put them there so other people can find them. But if you go on those websites on their homepage, you'll never find that particular piece of news, because they're never promoted. I mean, more people in Romania know how exactly, in what position did Emmanuel Macron scratch his balls yesterday. That's a much more important piece of news.
Yes.
than a serious analysis about the elections yesterday in Hungary or the elections yesterday in Serbia or the upcoming vote of no confidence that will be suffered again by the government of Bulgaria. Nobody even knows about these things.
Yeah.
And we only get to, I mean, not we, the two of us or you, but the general public gets to learn about these things only when the Guardian or Reuters writes about them, and then the NPCs just translate them.
Yeah.
And that is a terrible place, and probably that's why the Evrosayus really hates the approach from Poland and from Hungary, because at least in Poland and Hungary, these kinds of media outlets that actually they're gonna write the news and they'll do the documentation instead of waiting for Berlin to.
Yeah, that's basically the main problem with them, is that they are independent of the empire. It's not independent of the government. The government has a heavy influence on their own media, but then again, the narrative that it's a monopoly and the left-wing media does not exist in Hungary, that's bullshit.
The left-wing media didn't have like 2/3 of the market share.
Yeah, they have a lot bigger reach than the Hungarian government.
We've been talking about this in the Romanian podcast for a couple of years now, telling people that no, the left-wing media in Hungary is not censored. It has a bigger reach.
No, it's not. Not at all.
The narrative with censorship, I think it started with those kerfuffles with Index, I think.
Well, not just Index, but also the radio. So basically the radio channels, they did not give the license to some certain left-wing Hungarian radios, and that became a big issue. And also there was the Index thing, but then again the Index basically reinvented itself as Telex with the exact same funders, with the exact same people, and I would argue even a bigger reach.
Because they were censored and then they got bigger reach.
Yep.
Martyrdom brings
Yes.
Well, that's what I was saying.
That was basically their business policy for the first 3 months, to just whine about censorship.
Of course, I would have done the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Perception is reality.
Yeah.
Because you were arguing earlier that how to frame things, because even if it's real, if it's presented in an unbelievable way, people will not believe it. Yes, because perception is reality, unfortunately. And I guess that's the part that
and if people don't believe you,
our left-wing friends really despise, is that right-wingers have finally learned that perception is reality.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you can't use Alinskyite tactics against me.
It took them 30 years.
More, even more.
And they whine that the grandma in the village does not see these sites and only sees the government's propaganda. And I'm like, no, you do not understand. The people who do not watch the left-wing media don't watch it because they don't want to, because they fucking hate them.
Yeah,
like the old lady said in the train station, because kids think so.
Yeah, I believe there will be change.
Wouldn't believe. She wouldn't go to the vote for the opposition.
Yeah.
That's another aspect. Maybe this would have been a legitimate argument maybe 10 years ago.
Yes,
definitely
maybe.
20 years ago. But can we please stop assuming that our old people are fucking dumb?
Yeah.
Because they're not. They're not.
Most of them have internet and they can use it.
Yeah.
Some of them can't, but that's
the old people
proportion.
now are those people that actually participated in revolutions in the 89 and 90.
Yeah.
They were 20, 30
or 40.
or 40. Yeah. They were educated by the left and educated in mass.
Yes, and then afterwards they still had a significant portion of their adult life in
post-communism. Left-wing.
In post-communism,
Yeah.
We can't really call this democracy, but post-communism or whatever
So
this
they're
is.
not dumb. Most of them are educated.
Even if
Yeah,
they're...
if it's 80, maybe.
But But then again, how many 80-year-olds really interested in politics
None.
and lacking digital skills are out there? I mean, fucking Ion Iliescu has digital skills and he's 95. So, sorry, 92.
Yeah, but Iliescu is an exception, okay?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that how many 90 or 80-year-olds very interested in politics are actually frustrated of access because of lacking digital skills? I mean, that's...
Statistically, none.
That is around statistical zero.
Or at least dwindling.
Yeah, and very dwindling because, you know, this coof also. In any event, maybe I shouldn't go into that tangent on
Boomer remover, yeah.
well, but you know, since it's made in China, it was quite inefficient.
Yeah, the Chinese failed.
But although it was more efficient in Budapest, I mean, mortality-wise, not really, but the old people are just gone from public life in Budapest. I was reviewing footage from 2019 in Budapest, and it's just statistically fewer old people in public.
Because they don't want to be locked up in their houses, so they fucked off the city.
Well, that could be an option.
Perhaps.
But you know, it's very hard to find those kinds of statistics because
your
George
government,
Christmas
at the
isn't
beginning,
holy.
your government was as stupid as ours. With quarantines and lockdowns
Yeah,
and
no,
all
they
that
always
shit.
took into account
Yeah. So the old people just fucked off from Budapest, because in the country, who the fuck will enforce quarantines and
I'm sure they all cared.
Yeah.
Not.
And then again, I mean, some of them may have died.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
sure.
But not
So-
necessarily because of the coup.
Yeah, but
Oh,
because of general negligence.
Yes.
and I understood that your health system isn't really effective.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up. Yes.
It depends on what you mean by effective. I mean, you know,
Effective at removing
compared-
boomers.
Yeah, you know, it depends on what you could, you know, like people say, well, public education is not effective. Really? If you consider that its purpose is to brainwash you into being a statist drone, public education is very effective.
Yes.
It fails at educating you. Well, who said that was the purpose? You know.
Are you
No,
literate?
its purpose
Of
is to
course.
train you, not to
Yeah.
educate.
Are you literate? That is enough.
Well, in case of Portugal, they don't even get to that level. But
I mean the ex-communist countries, okay? We're
exception-
talking about our
mistakes have been
neighborhood.
made.
We're talking about our neighborhood.
Okay.
Most of them are literate.
Yeah.
So you said 4 years of a difficult term.
Yes.
How difficult?
Well, it's just the international situation, basically, and well, our fucked up, you know, inflation, and
It is a pretty big
and
one.
you know the terrible economic policies of Fidesz that also happen to be very popular, but they are terrible and detrimental.
Orbanomics. Come on.
Orbanomics. How can
Yeah.
it be against Orbanomics? He just won 2/3.
That doesn't mean it's not terrible. How bad do you expect things to get to?
Well, that's difficult to say.
Inflation is now at 15,
will it
16.
go to what Gürchen did in 2008? Almost. Bankruptcy.
It's probably not going to be as bad as under Gyurcsány, but it will be worse, and it will be progressively worse. You know, the slow rotting, basically.
Inflation is now at 16, 17%, the real one.
Yeah.
I don't know what the...
It's officially 7%, but you
It's
know,
lower than
In Romania
Romania.
is 20, yes. Not
It's
much of
lower.
a difference.
it's officially 7%, but I think it's
definitely bigger than that.
it's a lot bigger. I mean,
It has to be. Yeah, 16% per year. Well, that means 60% in 4 years. Because they kind of compound on each other.
Yeah.
That's the bitchiness of economics.
Question. What do you think Orbán will do with prices on gas and
Yeah, they're capped
diesel? Because they're capped.
Yeah, I think they will abolish it when it expires, because you know it's just
Do you
unsustainable.
realize if they abolish the cap,
Yeah, it will
It will
skyrocket
Yeah.
out
skyrocket.
of control. Yes.
Of course,
So,
but they don't really have a choice. I mean,
yeah, because
They are either in
they
for
have time the
shortages.
next 4 years to just recover from this.
they are either in for shortages or they abolish it and the price goes up.
Yeah.
These are the two
And if
two
they abolish
choices.
this year, then next 4 years they will have time to
Basically.
recover the electorate.
When is the measure set to expire?
This May.
This May.
When are the local elections?
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
Can they afford it to keep
No,
it for
they
another
don't.
6 months?
No.
No, that's impossible.
That's just too
they,
much.
they can't keep it up for another 6 months.
But they could lift it in May when it expires and then bring them back in August.
They could abolish it for a short period, and if the price goes
Or they
totally,
could do the sensible right-wing thing and abolish the taxes.
or that.
But they won't do that.
What I
Ironic.
think they will do, and this is coming from a propagandist, I would abolish the cap, let it skyrocket, and 2 weeks later come and put another cap, because the gas stations are making too much profit from the people.
Yep. If I were working for Orbán, that would be...
That would be my strategy. Leave it a month or two to just go up, and then come out and it's enough,
The evil profiteers.
Yes. Yes.
and kept it again for 6 months, let's say. At the local elections, I'd be it will be a landslide, for fuck's sake, because I'm the guy who protects the people.
Yeah, because during summertime the energy prices they also kind of tend to go down, so the cap will be higher than the market rate, and then fewer people will remember how things were, and then it will start skyrocketing exactly when the elections are coming, but it won't skyrocket too much because I put a cap on them.
Yeah.
So therefore, vote for me. And then, of course, after the
That would
elections,
be
I'll
my
just
strategy.
release
And
the price.
I believe something like that will happen. You will see it in the market.
You mentioned the sensible right thing to do of just cutting the taxes. Ironically, in Europe, it was socialist governments who did that. I mean, it was already
In
implemented.
Romania, for sure.
Yeah, in Romania, it's the socialists who want to cut the taxes on gas to keep the prices lower so it won't impoverish everyone. In Spain, they already implemented. It's a fully socialist government. I mean, it's the left and the far left in government. In Britain, the Labour Party is pressing the government to cut the taxes further on the fuel.
It was actually the same thing here. The opposition campaigned for Orbán to cut the taxes.
Yeah,
The left wing.
yeah, but I mean, we are going as a continent. We are going through the honking 20s, and more and more things are making less and less sense. And sometimes that's funny, but
Sometimes you
sometimes
don't know which is the left and which is the right.
I don't know who's doing who anymore.
What the fuck is going on here?
But the thing is that this isn't healthy for the, what do you call it, the body politic, I guess would be the philosophical term.
And also, it has been way too static over the past 12 years, basically. So nothing changed. Ever since 2010, basically nothing changed.
If I remember correctly, even Gertrude put a cap on gas prices.
No, it wasn't on gas prices. It was on some food items.
Or some 'cause
Food items.
in 2000 to 2001 or 2.
Yeah,
Who
well,
was in power in 2001? Because
Gertrude.
No. That was Fidesz.
it was Fidesz.
Oh yeah,
2001, that was
until
Orbán.
2002.
until 2002. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They-
but then
they did
Gyurcsány
it.
kept it.
Yeah, and the Gyurcsány
Gyurcsány
kept
the
it.
measure. 'Cause,
So
but then again, that was the period when Hungary experimented with accepting the euro currency at the same time with the forint on the territory, which ended up being a
Holy
ginormous
shit, I
clusterfuck.
hated that shit. I totally hated that shit. Because the prices in forints were lower
Well, of course.
than those in euro.
Of course.
I was paid in euro. So yeah, I hated that shit.
But then again, you could, I don't know what was the exchange rate for it.
Yeah, but at the time there were fewer places.
20 years ago.
There were fewer. It was much more difficult as a foreigner to exchange foreign currency in Hungary. There was all sorts of bureaucratic shit. And because that's why I still do have this habit to this day. I mean, you know it. You met us at the railway station, and we already had all of the forints that we needed bought from Romania. The reason I ended up with this habit is precisely because it used to be very difficult to exchange here. Now, of course, it's very easy, but I remained with the habit from the times when it wasn't. Because that's another thing. Hungary, unlike Poland or Romania or Serbia for that matter, Hungary has a long bureaucratic tradition.
Oh yes.
And everything has to be super bureaucratized and all stamped about stamps about
You
stamps.
couldn't exchange. You couldn't exchange euro in forint unless you had a visa, a working visa, for example, to show to the exchange.
Oh yeah, that was true. I mean, they would insist on an ID, but just like they insist now. But now it's any ID. Whereas at the time, are you here 31 days instead of the 30 that is maximum?
It was fucking horrible.
Are you the immigration police?
And I
Who cares?
I was paid in euro, so I had to buy everything in euro, and it was fucking almost double the price.
That's the other economic trap that Fidesz is constantly walking into ever since 2010 and not realizing it's the bureaucracy. They basically do nothing to get rid of the bureaucracy.
Well, as Orbán said,
employs
they created Budapest to show to people, to show to tourists.
Yes.
Now they will take care of the country, the countryside.
Yes.
Now maybe now somebody could lobby in Fidesz to cut off the fucking bureaucracy.
Well, I hope so, because small and middle-sized businesses are struggling, and the Hungarian economy is, relatively speaking, centralized.
Okay,
it's multinationals.
Do you have friends in Fidesz?
Not some of them in Fidesz, but not many.
Use those first. I mean, with a regime like
lobby,
this, you have to
lobby to them.
But I mean, one of the friends. I mean, the friend I have in Fidesz actually was the one who lobbied for the tax cut for the under 25s, so that they pay no taxes.
Yeah. No, talk to him and lobby to cut the fucking bureaucracy.
Yeah, but there is a strong disincentive here. Bureaucracies employ people. That means more jobs to distribute to friends of the party. We both know how these things work.
I know how these things work.
Yeah,
but as you can make it as Ponta did it. Yeah, cut off the fucking unnecessary papers. Because the people in the bureaucracy will find something to do.
Yeah, they can stay employed, just stop nagging me.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
You still get to steal the same amount of money from the public coffers, but just stop nagging me.
Yeah, basically, yes.
Ponta did it in Romania.
Yes. Yeah, also a socialist. A Sinophile socialist.
Yeah, a Sinophile socialist. He cut off almost 300 fucking papers.
There were all sorts of small papers that you would have to physically deliver to all sorts of institutions.
Let's have
fucking useless.
Let's have the exact same number of people employed. Basically just appoint them to push a button. That does nothing.
For 8 hours.
But stop nagging me. Use those friends. If you have friends that have friends in Fidesz, talk to them and send the idea further away.
Well, I am trying.
Until it reaches up to the...
Essentially create the perception that there is a public demand for debureaucratization.
Yep.
Even though that would never...
I mean, there is. Because...
There is, yes. But if it's not perceived by the regime, then there isn't.
Yeah.
Because perception is reality.
You young people here should organize.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. Is there? I mean, in Brazil, that's how they got Bolsonaro to power. They created all sorts of these small youth groups. None of them was bigger than 100. Again, population 200 million. Minuscule youth groups, who then suddenly got activated at once when Bolsonaro ran. So they operated relatively stealthily for about a decade. Prior to that, they all read quietly their Olavo de Carvalho's and whatnot. They got acquainted. They got trained into ideology.
Trained into ideology.
For better or worse. But then they got activated. These kinds of things work. It's just that it's like herding cats.
No. There is a strategy to do that. It's one employed by the Social Democrats in Romania. There are groups
with all sorts
called
of parties.
sympathizers.
Yeah, the sympathizing group, which
They
is
are
not
underage
officially-
kids trained until they reach
the age of majority.
18 years, trained in the ideology and trained in party actions, in propaganda.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as a reward, they also get basically free alcohol in various parties in the
Parties,
classicals.
alcohol, exactly what they want.
Yep.
It's exactly what they
And
want.
also free socializing, and not all political parties. The Social Democrats and our did the best. There is a pandemic. The nightclubs are closed, and there is no parties.
But the party has a meeting.
The party has parties.
No, the party has a meeting.
Yes, because political events you can't restrict them because that would be unconstitutional. So of course the meeting also had like a truckload full of vodka and beer, but it's a party meeting. Yeah. So they socialize.
Why
there.
don't you do that here?
No, I mean there is.
There probably is.
There are young people organizing. Some of them by Fidesz, some of them independently of Fidesz. Some of them are pro Mi Hazánk, some of them are more Fidesz leaning.
You need sociopaths in your groups. I'm not joking. You need sociopaths to gather you around. Basically.
It's a difficult process, Alain, and you know it. It's like herding cats.
I know. It's difficult.
And it's double plus difficult with right wingers.
It's non-rewarding process. It's a non-rewarding process. You don't have a reward from doing that. Your reward comes 20, 30 years later when those guys get in power. I used to drink with the youth in the Social Democrats. Now some of them are in the government.
Well, I feel like it's a rewarding thing, but
how is that?
Let's not disclose that.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Let's not disclose that what happens.
You get young pussy, okay.
That's the easy part.
No, that's not what I meant, but never mind.
Okay, joking.
Let's assume that you meant that. Right. What else? I guess that would be pretty much it. Oh yeah, the memery. We have to go a bit through the memery. So this is the meme of how do you say landslide victory in Hungarian?
Yeah.
2/3. God damn it. Make sure what maps you look at, because some of them are not counties won by the opposition, but the Balaton Lake.
That was absolutely glorious.
That is another thing that the left-wing party that can meme, the two-tailed dog party,
Yes.
did not get into the parliament. So I guess you can't meme yourself into parliament all the time. But if they keep it up, in 20.
Well, they've been doing this ever since 2008-6, so
that something is wrong.
yeah.
You can't be memeing for 14 years and not get into the parliament.
Their brand is not that strong.
Their memes are sometimes cringe.
Well, sure, but not always. I mean,
they have good memes, but many of them are way more leftist than the Hungarian populace.
So there's just not enough voters to
attract with that. Yeah.
To appeal to.
And,
Change the ideology of the party.
The dog party is basically the party that disaffected leftists vote for. Fuck the opposition, we are going to vote for the dog party. So that's basically.
Well, maybe they should become green.
Yeah, I've seen good trolling done by the dog party, like the one with the fucking masks all over his face.
No, that was Memo.
Yeah, that was Memo.
That was Memo.
Okay.
That's
that
Memo.
was a porn tycoon.
Yeah, so basically the technocratic pornocracy or pornographic technocracy, whichever. Either way, but would you consider? Yeah, I mean, Memo did not play to win. I mean, they did not play to get into the parliament.
Yeah, no, but they did. I think they did manage to get 1%. So
yeah.
They did, yes. But I was looking at the attitude. These are kind of finesse things that you'll only learn after decades in politics. I was looking at the attitude of their activists in the street, and they were pretty bored.
Yeah, I mean they were basically just paid to be there, so, and
Yeah.
that showed.
Yeah, but those masks were.
They had a decent
Yeah,
effect.
the Hungarian
Mustache.
as a view from the Hungarian guy folks, basically.
Yes, I mean, it had an effect, but they could have gotten a lot more if they weren't like bored.
Yeah, no, they could have gotten more if they would have done propaganda properly, but they just stood there and waited
Yeah,
for
they
people
had-
to
they
get
had
there,
one message
to take
and-
their flyers. No, go and give their flyers. Talk to the people.
Yeah, but you can't really speak behind that mask. Yes, you behind the mask.
But then again, if you are paid either way, why work?
Yeah, well, I don't know, for a poor tycoon, I mean, you know, didn't he know that you have to incentivize your employees?
Well, the way I used to make my youth group to talk to the people, just give them some sheets like a formula,
Form.
yeah, and said, go with these, and you bring me at least 10 or 20 of these completed.
Filled out.
Yeah, filled out. They had to talk to the people, and while they were talking, they were presenting the platform.
Yeah, make it fun.
Yeah,
Make it fun for the shill and also for the persons, the civilians approached in the street. But yeah, speaking of that, we haven't, and though we tried, we haven't managed to get approached on the street. Except for that guy from, I think he was from the Two-Tailed Dog Party that gave us that the
Oh
currency.
yeah, when we
Yeah,
were
but-
Yeah, but
photographing.
he was bored as well.
As well, yes.
Yeah.
But at
He-
least he approached us.
Yeah.
So then we just took all of his flyers because you know it was fun.
Yeah, they were funny flyers. So.
Funny, yeah. That's the thing. Two-Tailed Dog Party, if they were a bit more enthusiastic.
You're looking now
Yes.
at the banknotes we received from the Two-Tailed Dog Party.
Yeah, and the 1,000 forint copy, where it has the commie faggot on it.
Oh yeah, the commie faggot.
Yes.
But then was very angry. that the guy who called him a commie faggot did not win.
The commie faggot was sad because the guy who called him a commie faggot lost. What the
Amazing,
fuck?
amazing. So,
This is a meme country.
at least you had at least it was definitely good memes, much better than in Moldova.
Oh, wait.
Much better than in Moldova. Although on the far right spectrum, slightly less funny than in Bulgaria. I mean, in Bulgaria they were like one-child policy for gypsies, and so they were a bit more. They sounded more seriously.
I think if you ask
which is why they would approve.
They would approve
Probably they
today.
would. Probably they would. But Vazajdanya got more than 10% because they sounded more seriously.
They would not say gypsies.
Ah.
You know, because
What the fuck?
Because these days that's haram and they don't want
You can't say Tziganyok in public?
Not really. I mean, you can't be an unironically anti-gypsy party. You have to say all these criminal elements and all that kind of stuff.
Cohabiting
So
nations.
basically, you can't say tell them by their name, but you have to describe them, which usually gets worse. Because describe the infractionality, the criminality, basically the parasitic elements.
Yeah.
It's even worse than.
To be fair, Ceausescu also would never say Tsigani, they
No,
would
he
always say
said-
cohabiting nations.
Yeah.
So they would say Romanians, Hungarians, Germans, Jews, and other cohabiting nations.
And also, whenever they get the chance, they bring up Israel because that's the kosher way to say fucking Jews, basically.
Yeah, but what's their problem with Israel? I mean, their former boss is now an Israeli citizen. I mean, what's the problem with that?
No, it's just they found this and that, and they did that and that, and
Oh, the Jews rule the world and
Yeah, yeah, all that-
everything.
all that
Ish,
crap.
so, okay.
Yeah,
Fair
it
enough.
reminds me of a joke with the Jew that was reading
In
the Arab news.
paper. You know the joke, right? Every morning, the Jew and the Arab would hop on into the same train to go to work in Jerusalem. And of course, the Jew was reading the Jewish newspaper, and the Arab was reading the Arab newspaper. And After a while, the Jewish guy comes in the train with the Arab newspaper, and this Arab friend notices, oh come on, that's not the Jewish paper. No, it's not. It's the Arabic newspaper. It's actually much better than the Jewish newspaper. It's like, really? I think our news are pretty shit. And no, you don't understand. The Arabic newspaper is much better. Look, here's the Jewish newspaper. Inflation hits a record high. Unemployment. Some terrorist attack happened in Haifa. It's kind of terrible. Here's the Arab newspaper. Jews run the world. Jews do this. Jews do that. So, whenever I hear this kind of whining, I just reminds me of that joke. But no, seriously, what do they really have against Israel? I mean, Israel isn't really involved in Hungary, at least not in significant ways.
Well,
I mean, there is a...
Soros is banned in Israel, so if
but he's a Jew.
Yes, so
that's the problem. They're not against Israel. They're against the Jews outside Israel.
Are you even sure about that?
Jews in here, they have a problem with the Jews in Hungary.
Why? Are there even that many Jews in Hungary?
No,
left?
not really.
Because
not even that much Israeli funding, but they just have to bring it up every single time they find something. So, yeah, but back in the day, it was much more kosher to to say fucking Jews and talk about the Jews. And
no, it's not.
And these guys they basically come from the exact same crowd, and they still have to kind of what's the word?
Look the part. Winks and
yeah,
nods.
Just wink back. Do you remember that?
I think they're in the process of reassessing the politics and the ideology.
Yeah.
Or at the very least the messaging.
Yeah.
But then again, Mi Hazánk has actual politicians, I'm not going to disclose names, that basically commemorate the birthday of the Führer, and
Stupid idiots.
Whenever I hear about these
it's
things,
not about the Nazis. It's not about the fact that they are Nazis. No, they are stupid because the Führer was half Jew.
well, that's true. But whenever I hear these kinds of elements, and of course we have a few of them in Romania too, but like 500 of them or something like that, maybe a bit more. Whenever I hear these kinds of elements, I'm like, I'm not sure if it glows or just fucking retard.
No, just fucking retard.
Because it's usually one of the two, but most likely the latter. No,
it's just a fucking retard.
You don't have to blame conspiracy when you have stupidity.
Of course.
It's not that many within the party, but they do have those kinds of people there. And they have this website, kurz.info, which you can't even link it on Facebook.
It's so hard that you can.
And
But can you screenshot?
I don't think so.
You get banned.
Risky. Okay.
Yeah, it's risky. And there they talk about, for example, that Fidesz is so bad because it's too philo-Semitic, and this kind of stuff.
Amazing. So that means we should expect a lot of honk from them, because surely if such elements exist, and I'm not surprised to hear that they do, it will spill over into their parliamentary messaging.
Come on, Lucian, we have in our are a lot of elements that have a problem with Israel.
Yes, but so far...
But they are kept...
they've been a year and 4 months in the parliament already, and they never honked like that.
No, because they are kept... they are literally kept.
Yeah, but then again, the leadership is in such a way that, look, there's the Senate where there's smart people, and then there is the hooligans where there's not so smart people, and the Senate gets to decide who is allowed to speak in public. And then there are certain elements that, entire pieces of the party that are deemed a priori stupid in public, therefore you're not allowed to speak in public. so there's that. But maybe they'll honk a bit more.
Or maybe not. Maybe they will create a Senate and keep the honk.
Doubt. I'm willing to bet that won't happen.
Yeah, they went in the campaign with Hungary for Hungarians. So.
Well, that's okay. Yeah. Seriously, that is okay. What I don't find okay is social distancing in the in the public.
In public, basically.
Yeah, an arm's length from danger, as the Mrs. Mayor of Köln used to say 7 years ago.
They of course don't do that in public, but get them a few beers and
Is it illegal in Hungary to salute?
To do the Roman salute? I don't think so.
Because in Romania it is.
No, it's not. The salute is not.
The salute is not. The symbolistic is.
The symbols are banned, but I don't think the salute particularly is.
Germany is the only place where it's really haram, in the sense that the police actually uses a repertoire in a picture to see if it is if it's closer to the angle of the fascist salute, then you'll get arrested, and if it's not, then that's okay.
So 45 degrees.
Yeah, I know. But what I'm saying is that in Germany they actually they actually look at it very carefully and measure it, because Germany.
And how high is the Bellamy salute?
It's similar. No, Bellamy salute is slightly higher. But in the United States no one cares because, well, First Amendment and shit.
Yeah, sure. But then again, then you could Bellamy salute in Europe.
Yes, it's not recommendable, but yes. Not in Germany.
Why not recommendable? Because it will bring out all those elements.
All the loonies, yes. Kind of like the guy from Lega Nord, I think,
yeah.
who proposed in the Italian Senate to use the Roman salute because it's much more sanitary instead of shaking hands, so we can avoid catching the coof.
Ignoring that salute was not
that's
actually...
That's good trolling. That's very good trolling.
Ignoring that salute was actually never used by the Romans.
It doesn't matter.
It was used by the
yes.
Gladiators.
Yes, but the stupid took the bait.
The stupid took the bait in a way that, oh shit, my bait!
That's the thing, I mean, everyone fell for that. So that's very good, bait of excellent quality.
Absolute quality, yeah.
Bait of excellent. And Mihozank can become bait of excellent quality if they play their cards right. Or they could fail, so,
Let's be infiltrated.
We'll see, it will be an interesting 4 years for sure.
Mm-hmm. On the left side, is there some honk that we should expect? So we've already discussed it enough on the far right.
Some implosions.
Yeah, because they already started fighting with each other as of this morning, April 4th.
Of course.
So imagine if they had won. How would they form a government?
Is there a possibility for the Hungarian public to have felt the fact that they are bickering between each other and vote for Fidesz only to have political stability?
I think yes. I mean, it was well known that the party is not that unified.
So the public felt it and just went.
Yeah, of course.
With Fidesz. Some part of the public.
Just the divide between Markizai Péter and the parties was
visible.
Visible, yes.
Clearly, yes.
Yeah.
More quarreling when there's war next door. Are we even sure we want that? Whereas Whereas we have that guy who definitely runs his party.
Because
and
that's the theory one of our friends launched today. Basically, that the Hungarian people felt the bickering in the opposition and voted for Fidesz just to have stability because over the border there is a fucking war.
The very late lists was a very clear sign that something is wrong.
Yeah, because they negotiated the list with a lot of public fallout, USR style.
Oh fuck!
And it took them a long time.
It took them a long time, and
basically, that's what happened.
The populace isn't formed entirely of stupid people. They smell the quarreling there.
Yes.
So there's that. All right. Is there anything else that we forgot to mention for this second and final episode?
The Gyurcsány party within the opposition gained seats.
Yes, that's true.
They are now the strongest party in the opposition.
MZP?
No,
DK. Democratic Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the Gyurcsány people got a political boost, so to say.
They failed upwards.
Yeah, they basically failed upwards because you should have elected Dobrev Klára. That would have been the right path with the right captain.
So yeah, DK stands for Dobrev Klara now.
Yeah, basically.
Or
I
they
call
should
her-
have called him Hauptsturmführer. It would have been much easier.
I just call her Dobre večer, dobra noc. You know, because she is a foreign agent from Bulgaria.
Yes, yes. That would be quite
Dobry
interesting
večer.
to see, because as of I think May the 10th, Hungary will have a woman as president.
Yes.
And at the same time to have Dobrev Klara as prime minister. I mean, that would be honk. Just imagine the no, I don't want. I don't want to get in there because I'll get zucked on YouTube as well if I start expressing the honest opinion about such a combination.
The populous opinion.
No, my honest opinion. Which may be-
No, but also
I know what you mean, but yeah.
I don't think the Hungarians really like Dobrev.
Well,
Yeah, no, but it still would have been a better choice than Markus Peter.
Yeah,
probably
they would
have
not
been, probably they would have been competitive.
Yeah.
They would have still lost, but they would have been
Yes.
competitive.
It wouldn't have been
Because
a
it
rape.
cannot be stressed enough. We expected the difference between 4 and 7%
Yeah.
between Fidesz and the opposition.
It's 13,
It was and it ended up being double digits. I mean,
14,
It was
something.
devastating.
it was, yeah. But I mean, when the first results came, we were standing in front of the TV and like, this is rape. I mean, it cannot be underscored just how devastating it was. So, with Klara Dobrev, probably it wouldn't have been a bloodbath.
Yeah.
Well, it would have been an honorable loss. Yeah. All right. Then I guess with all of that being said, Daniel, thanks a lot for the time you spent with us, and it's a lot more than you've seen on the cameras for sure.
It was my pleasure.
And we'll see if Trump comes at the conservative convention. Maybe I'll show up for a day or two, and then I don't want to spoil the surprise, but maybe at the Love Parade, if they hold it in July, I'll try.
If
my
they
best.
hold it in July, we will come.
I'll try my best to come.
If you don't come, I'll just talk to the donors and I'll come alone.
But if it's in August and I'm in Uzbekistan, well, I've been trying to get to Uzbekistan.
Maybe next year.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to get to Uzbekistan for the last 2 years, and they've been closing the Gulag because of the coup. So now they opened the Gulag, and there is no more coup. I have to go there first. Degenerates in Budapest will be here next year as well. All right.
All right.
I guess thanks for watching. Again, thanks a lot for the time you spent with us. We would have had, considering the terrible weather we've been through,
Yeah.
it would have been much more difficult without you. Because, having to freeze.
To death.
Well, not to death back. Oh, come on. But having to freeze and also having to. Oh, okay. How do you formulate that in Hungarian? Oh, God damn it! It was much easier to just ask you to translate. So there was that. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you all around.
Dobry
Cheers.
wieczór.
Dobry wieczór.